Okay, hello there, traders. Welcome to the TOGS Trading Podcast. Here we are, TOGS number 23, the final one on of season one, and really it's a reflection on 2024 so far in terms of markets, trading, podcasts, life, etc. So plenty for us to discuss as we kind of draw a close as we go into our summer break. As always, we really appreciate those of you who've subscribed, who give us likes, who send us messages, comments, love it. We absolutely love it and stuff. And as always, for a conversation, I'm here joined by Ian back in Dublin by the looks of it. So looking good, Billy Ray. How are
Thank
you
you very
doing?
much. Well, I have a sore throat, but I'll struggle through this.
Oh,
Basically,
you're a trooper. You're
yeah.
a trooper. So you're back in Dublin then.
Back in Dublin, I was in Westport. Took a few days off. It was my birthday, and then I ended up just coming back to the rat race, I suppose. And yeah, and that was basically it. There was, unfortunately, the time I took off, except for the very last day, it was raining because I was in the west of
Ah,
Ireland. The weather in the west of Ireland is a lot worse than it is up here. And I think that's where I've managed to pick up this, which is the third time I've had the flu. Or cold. I just remember when I
yeah.
picked up this podcast. So it's, but I think that's also because I have a young son, and they tend to be disease spreading things, children, basically.
Isn't that just an excuse for you to have a hot whiskey and stuff if you got a little bit of a sore throat? Hot whiskey on the hour every hour, get you through it.
One for breakfast, one for lunch. Just a Winston Churchill type thing, just with hot
That's
whiskey
right.
instead of
I
whiskey and
think
soda.
he was more brandy man, wasn't he, and stuff. But
He
you
used
get
to
the
start, yeah, he started
you
off
get
his
the
morning
drift.
with a whiskey and small whiskey and soda, which actually
Oh,
is.
well, there you go. Well, there you
Mm,
go. Maybe there's something in it. My great aunt, God rest her soul, Aunt Annie, she lived till 98, 99, and never until the last 6 months of her life, never sick, never ill,
mm,
never had any major illness, nothing at all. And she put it down to she had a teaspoon of is it white Mackay whiskey in a morning cup of tea, and
right.
she put it down to that. She'd have a teaspoon of it in a cup of tea every morning,
Mm,
and that was it. And as I
mm,
said, the old girl was never ill, never until
mm,
about this last 6 months of her
mm,
life. She was about 98, 99, never sick, never ill, never had any
mm.
coughs, never had any colds. Maybe maybe there's something in it Ian, and stuff. Maybe that's another
Yeah.
podcast.
Well,
Dubious.
Winston Churchill
Yeah,
lived a
well,
long time for what he
he,
used to
he,
drink.
he yeah, exactly. Didn't he? He had
Mm,
I don't read, he would have like kippers and brandy for his breakfast most mornings and stuff or whatever.
mm.
And some breakfast of kings, I'd say that, or breakfast of prime ministers.
And
Is
yeah,
that the
and
best thing?
one of the most interesting things I remember about that from my wine trade days was that Paul Roger, which is a champagne house,
Yeah.
which was his favorite champagne, and actually it's really good champagne if you ever see it. And for 25 years after he died, they put a black border because he was one of their best customers. They put a black border around their label on their white label, which is their basic champagne. And they
There
used to
you
do him
go.
a special bottling, pint bottle size bottles of champagne because he could finish an entire one in one sitting. Where if they gave him a big
But
bottle, then he'd only finish three quarters of it and it'd be gone flat the next day, basically.
yeah,
So that was
crikey. Well, I suppose if you're in the middle of fighting a major global war,
yeah,
you need something to get you through it, don't you? And yeah,
yeah,
you need some
absolutely.
sort of outlet,
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah. And it's only recently I started drinking whiskey and soda, I'd say in the last 6 months. And it's only that I actually started to understand Scotch because a lot of
Yeah.
scotches that I used to drink, like even if you take Johnny Walker Red Label, like Johnny Walker Red Label on its own should just come with a side of Gaviscon. I just can't stand it. But if you actually put it in with soda, it's actually a nice drink. It is just a basic. I mean, there's nothing special about it, but it's actually quite a nice drink. I think myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's soda that made me understand Scotch.
Well, the
So
yeah, kind of my knowledge of Scotch came from I was based up in northeast Scotland in my youth on an air defence station and stuff, and it is a pretty bleak part of the world,
mm,
Peterhead and stuff, as the I think Billy Connolly said if the world ever needs an enema, they're going to insert the tube in Peterhead, and I wouldn't disagree with that. So really, you had to find your own, make your own entertainment, and so of course, just across the way there is the Speyside Way stuff, and I had a couple of Scottish lads posted of me, so I started my education of whiskey and stuff, and drank a good deal of it and stuff there because, well, what else you going to do? But I barely drink it these days. The odd nip now and then on a special occasion, but I did learn to love it. But yeah, I think easy to over imbibe, shall we say, when you're a young lad in the middle of nowhere with nothing to do. But at least it was good whiskey. I wasn't. I wasn't there on the footy sark, so to speak. And but anyway, listen. Once again, that's another podcast and stuff. That's a completely different podcast. Whiskies of the world we've liked and stuff.
I'm going through a bourbon phase at the moment. I was going through a bourbon phase at the moment, so I keep buying bourbon all the time.
I've had my days on bourbon as well. When you work with the Americans and stuff, they invariably always try to sort of tell you that bourbon's better than whiskey. Each their own, but I'll stick with the single malt Scotch. But there you go. Anyway, not to worry. So today's session, all right, is all about reflections. As we said in the last couple of weeks, this is the end of season 1. All right, it's the end of June. We decided to take July and August as a break, summer break, a topic that we have talked about in a previous one about the importance of taking breaks, and so. This was all about, reflections of, this, what we're getting towards is, it's the end of Q2, it's the end of the first half of the year. So, what have we learned about markets, trading, ourselves, life, podcasts, etc.? I appreciate that. It's quite a broad brush, but it's a starting point for us, isn't it, Ian? So what's been some of the kind of interesting points you've learned in this first 6 months of the year?
I'd say for myself, the biggest thing I probably changed was I gave up thinking as much as possible, because I find thinking and guessing are kind of the same thing. And so it was a bit more, so I came up with slightly tighter rules during the year around indicators, and let the indicators do the actual work.
Okay.
So, and that made a big, huge change. It made a change that it means basically that my trading is a lot less energy intensive, because I'm trading a lot less. I'm not having to sit there and be quite as glued to the screen, even for scalping. It's just an easier process, really. And I think in some way, I think it was just anxiousness. And I think I was using anxiousness to try and induce focus. And then I kind of gave that up and just went, hang on a sec, these indicators will do all this for me anyway. Because it's, like, I know where price should change, as in I know where support and resistance is. And if the indicators are in agreement, and you get a trigger, what else is there to think about? And if it's a genuine change in the market, there's nothing else to do except sit on your hands. So you don't need to be engaged. I don't need to be engaged the whole time, like with this sort of like deathly stare at the screen. And that was the biggest change, is that I just stopped thinking, really, and just started doing, a much simpler job of trading. And that certainly hasn't hurt my results. And it's not going to hurt my results going forward. But it just means that I'm not exhausted and burned out by the end of the day. Having spent so long concentrating.
That's that in itself is an interesting topic, in terms of we have looked at in past sessions, haven't we, about indicators, okay, and what, if any, use they are. But actually, it is, as you say, nobody really talks about using those indicators to help you manage your energy. All right, and there's the old kind of performance coaching adage of the managing energy, not time, is the true source of high performance. All right, and recognizing that you can't operate at full throttle all day, every day. All right, well, you can, but you burn out exceptionally quickly, and it all goes horribly wrong. And it is about managing your energy and being able to manage it around your other commitments, etc., and also just what's going on with yourself. That's a fascinating point.
Yeah, it's also trading isn't a puzzle. It's like, because a puzzle basically means that you're trying to sort out every new happening in the market is new. That's what that implies. So if you spend that much time thinking about, oh, I think it's going to go up, I think it's going to go down, it's almost implying that everything is a unique moment, is a unique happening in the market, and that's not a way to trade. The only way to trade is to trade setups that are repeatable, that have an edge, that have a probability, and there's nothing else. There's nothing else to do. So less thinking and more just doing your setups is a better way to go. And how it also made me realize as well how incredibly simple, while it is very hard to trade, how incredibly simple a lot of it is. If you take a 50-minute, like I trade the ES, so if you take a 50-minute stochastic on a standard setting 1433, and you only trade when it's oversold, or only go long when it's oversold, your probability, if it's in support, and it fits the chart, the probability that it's going to hold, that you're going to find in around that oversold, that you're going to find a trigger that's going to go long, is relatively high. So why not let the stochastic time when you need to be there? So you can watch the stochastic, but you don't need to be deathly watching the stochastic. You can let the stochastic help you to time your trade, and then you can go to a next time frame, maybe a 5-minute time frame, and if that is incongruent with the 15, then you can go and it gives you another little thing, and off you go, basically. So
Yep.
it's just it helps to just save your energy, save your time, and not burn yourself out, because burnout in trading is really easy.
Yeah.
So easy to do it.
It's very easy to do, especially if you're at it every day as an intraday trader. And I bang on about this constantly and stuff. Is that that it, that dips in your intraday trading, they are the rule, not the exception. Right, managing that performance becomes actually that's what becomes the full-time business in many ways, managing your performance, so that you only trade when you're in a good space, and actually when you're not in a great place, and that makes it sound like you're in a terrible place. You're not, but when you're not at your best, that actually you shouldn't be shocked if you deliver suboptimal performance. All right, and that actually it's telling you that you probably need to take a little break, and sometimes that break's a day away from it. Sometimes that break is a week, a month, a quarter, maybe even a year, sometimes, depending on what it is. But managing that performance and stuff and anything that helps you becomes increasingly important the longer you trade, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it cuts down the amount of mistakes that you make. And because a lot of the mistakes that you make are you second guessing your own setup. Like a very typical thing would be, we see, particularly with newer traders, to see like a lot of big red bars coming down to support.
Yeah.
And then they're making an emotional judgment because it's frightened them a little bit, that they think that price is going to go straight through support, and it doesn't necessarily mean that. So if you're doing it if you let the indicator just tell you have to do this, like the more things you have to do, the less things you have to think about, and the less mistakes you make. So it's a bit autopilot-ish, but I think it works. It works. So far for me, it's fine. And it's also, you don't really have to be this, like, you don't have to get every tick in the market. You don't have to get every point that's there. You only have to get enough, because it's liquid markets. It doesn't matter whether you're trading one contract or 100 contracts. They're liquid enough to in the ES. They're liquid enough to just eat that up.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, safe money is just get the safe money, I think.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think people are sometimes they feel that they need to capture every tick of the move. They need to capture the exact bottom and the exact top, and that'll just drive you bonkers. All right, trying to do that, you don't even need to trade the reversal. If you can see it, you've got the ability. Fair play, Bob. But actually, you just need to capture a piece. All right, a piece of that trend, whether it's 6 ticks or 600 pips. You just need to capture a piece of it, depending upon who you are and how you trade and stuff. And actually, that is enough. And being able to repeat doing that is a fabulous thing. All right, is a very fabulous thing. And I think sometimes people put a lot of pressure on their shoulders that they need to basically capture every tick on a move, and you don't. All right, you don't at all.
No, there's all that just FOMO. The second big thing for me during the year was that I started looking at my process, my mental process, because it came out of a conversation I had with somebody, actually, one of our more esoteric friends, who started asking me about, where do you feel fear in your body? Where do you feel anger in your body? Where do you feel whatever the other emotions are in your body? And, when you feel like stress, I feel in my shoulders, for instance, or I feel it in my chest. And one of the things you can do with trading is that you can learn, you can even watch somebody else trade live on YouTube and do it with it, is that you can learn what you feel, because every decision is just a series of smaller decisions and emotions that lead to a bigger one, basically. So every step of the way, you have these little stray little thoughts that are in your subconscious. And that's what ends up guiding you to making the ultimate decision of whether you're going to, of whatever action you're going to take in the market, whether if you're in a trade or you're not in a trade, or whether you exit early, or all that sort of stuff. And it's looking at that process. Because the more you understand that process, give you an example, right? If somebody tells you have to walk up to a pretty girl in the bar, and suddenly you start feeling a certain amount of nervousness, and you feel a certain amount of nervousness someplace in your body, and then you start preparing in your head, what have you got to say? How are you going to do it? Whatever the process is for you. That's a process. And there's an action that results at the end of it. So it's the same with trading, and you have to understand that process, because if you understand the process, you can find little bits in the middle of it where you can either interrupt it. Same with over trading, you do the same thing where you can interrupt it and change it slightly to make even fewer mistakes. And I think that's a big thing, because as well, on top of that, I got my wife in one of the days just to watch me trading, because she's able to see where the difference, where I might have fear that I don't even recognize.
Totally.
Or I'm sort of drifting off and I'm not being particularly engaged with what I'm doing in the right way. All these sort of little things. And it's trying to find all these little things in yourself. And a lot of those exist as feelings in your body. You feel happy, you feel it in a certain place, you feel sad, you feel it in a certain place. And if you learn that, if your left shoulder, it becomes a tell about your own emotions. So that was a big thing. And that is a big thing. It's an ongoing thing where I'm just looking to make sure that my thought process is always clean and correct. So it is. So that's what I was doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a lot of teenagers outside my window there. That's just what?
You're about to get burgled.
Oh no. We'll have to get a big stick someplace or something. I don't know.
I have to get the shotgun out.
Yeah. My shotgun, only one of the barrels is working on my shotgun at the moment, so it has to go after the little man for a new spring to be put
Oh,
on.
really? Oh, right. Well,
Yeah.
I had that experience. I lived in an apartment in Summertown in North Oxford. The last place you'd think you were getting burgled, and there was trouble in the house in the apartment next door, like about 3 a.m. And it's a funny how the older habits kick in and stuff. My girlfriend at the time was like, "Oh, it's fine," until windows started getting smashed, and then suddenly, suddenly I'm stuffing her under the bed whilst I am gaffer taping the carving knives to the end of the broom handles and stuff like this, like proper old medieval carving. And it's just like the most natural thing, if this burglar's coming in through the door, he's going out with a makeshift spear in his chest and stuff. It just kicks in. You're just like, right, here we go. That's just
I remember, something like that happened to me before in an apartment I lived in when I was years ago, and I used to be really quite fit and quite big at the time. And I heard this knocking, messing at the door, my front door, and I looked out through the peephole, and there was a guy about to elbow my door to come in through my door, and I had a baseball bat, and I was happy to go to war in my underpants.
Yeah.
And I just opened the door with my baseball bat going like, what do you want? It's like 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And it turns out he was just moved in, and he was at the right door, but on the wrong floor. And he was so drunk, he was deciding he was going to come through the door with his elbow because he couldn't find his key wouldn't work.
Emergency averted. And
just as well.
but you can be quite a nice, genial kind of gregarious, kind of decent lad and stuff. But if someone's coming in through the front door or the window,
if you feel threatened, absolutely, but you don't want to be doing that either, because one of the things which when I was talking to a policeman about it, and he was saying that the first question they'll ask is, "Well, you got a baseball bat?"
Mm. Well,
So if
I
you don't
did the
get that
same
job,
because I do play baseball. So I actually had
right?
I had
Yeah, yeah.
a good reason for having a couple in the house kept by the door, but that's another story.
Well, we have bats in the house because I have a son who plays rounders, and I have
Yeah.
videos of that. So I do.
Well, there you go.
So there he
There you
is.
go.
Yeah. So it's yeah. That's
End
that.
of season segue. So
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, you were saying.
Um, my bad days were all the same this year.
Mhm.
So they all basically that I realized that there was a whole process with the bad days that they were all the same, and I was usually tired. I was busy in the morning, arrived into work slightly late, so I had my proper preparation done, and then started working, and then just screwed it up because I hadn't the whole process wasn't done, and it was more of a need I have to work, like a feeling in myself that I have to work, and going off quite early to do a lot of the stuff, like just working too fast before all my preparation was done, and then getting myself into trouble, and then getting flustered from that, not being in the right place to do it, where I should have either just taken the day off or taken a couple of hours extra off to just get the actual preparation that I need to get done. And
Totally.
that was
Totally.
nice. Yeah, that was a big wake up call because like I think my worst day I lost 6% or something. And I'm only doing that by memory, so it's written down someplace. Like I mean, that's not terrible for me because
No.
I trade generally quite a small account, but I churn it all the time because it's scalping. You don't need a huge amount of whatever, but still, yeah, 6%. So once I understand that was a weakness that I had during the year, that's how I would end up having my worst losing days. You're able to do something to correct it. Once you understand it, you can correct it.
Yeah.
The next one
That's
I
it.
have, sorry, yeah.
That's just think that that's fascinating. It's fascinating, and it kind of it proves our point and stuff when we talk about this about the importance of reflecting upon your trade, okay, and keeping the records and reviewing it and reflecting upon it because those kind of learning points come out of it when you take a bit of time away and look at that, and then just as we said right early at the start of this session here is that it's important to put yourself in a good position, a good place to be able to trade, and if you're not,
Mhm.
well, then actually, having the kind of the temerity, the courage, however you want to describe it, to step away and say, you know what, I'm actually, I'm not at my best today. Either A, do I step away completely for the session, or do I just step away and put myself in a better place? Maybe I need to do something. Maybe I need to eat. Maybe I need to go for a walk. Maybe I need to do a bit of exercise. Maybe I need to answer that email that's been nagging me or make that call that's been nagging me and stuff, and basically clear the decks and put yourself in a better place and come back at it because it's about managing your energy and managing your performance.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting stuff to share that in.
Yeah, the other thing is I work too much and I work too little, um, and I work at the wrong times, and that's a lifestyle problem. That's the biggest one of the biggest problems with my particular lifestyle is that a lot of times during the day, if I have a long time, like I'll work all day if I have nothing else to do,
Yeah,
and that becomes an energy problem because by the afternoon, by the time when the cash session opens, you might be 4 trades, 5 trades deep, and you're getting a bit tired. And then that's when the real session starts. That's when the real money can be made because there are 1 to 4 really good setups on any one day during the cash session. We said there's usually two. There's an up and then there's a down, that kind of thing. So it's teenagers are back again. So what was I going to say? So that's
start gaffer taping that carving knife to the broom handle, mate. Just
well, I hope I never have to do that because in all fairness, that'd be just it'd be such a terrible thing to happen in your life. Like if you had to go and do something along those lines.
yeah,
Because you could end up like screwing up your entire life. You could end up screwing up their life, and
yeah, yeah,
also
yeah,
get sued for
yeah.
it. But anyway, so I was going to say, so I work too much and work too little. And that's a problem because, like at the moment, for instance, my son goes to camp. He goes to camp when I'm at the London Open, and he comes home at the New York Open, which are the two best times. So I'm missing both those times at the moment. So that's a lifestyle issue that I have, and I have a lot of lifestyle issues with trading and time, which I find which are something that I have to try and correct in some way. That I end up getting more quality time at work, and then because you don't need a huge as a scalper, you don't need a huge amount of time, and you shouldn't have a huge amount of time. Like 4 hours a day for scalping, in my opinion, is loads, because if you look at a lot of the even the YouTube trader people, that are professional traders who are doing live trading, they're only doing like 2 hours at a go, because you can't concentrate for any more than that. And you can't really do an awful lot. And also the other thing too is that the market is actually generally okay, as in it does the same things every day, more or less. So you get the the first morning trade around 10 o'clock US time, 3 o'clock my time. Then around 7 o'clock in the evening, generally you get the next one. So there's things like that you know that you're generally going to have a gap close during the day, about a 70% chance of getting the gap closed. All those types of things, you have a lot of routine stuff that happens in the market that you can kind of work with.
We were just thinking the point. I'll share a point from a kind of the other end of the spectrum. You look at scalping. Within FX markets, there has been a real decrease in volatility over this first part of the year. There's been a real decrease in volatility. So I have found on the daily chart there have not been as many setups in terms of as many setups in the trends that I would like to see, that I would like to take. And look, that has kind of diminished. All right, and I'm speculating that a lot of that is to do with the decrease in FX volatility and stuff. There's still volatility enough on an intraday basis if you're an intraday trader, okay, or if you've got taken a swing position for a couple of hours or etc. But I have noticed that I've noticed that kind of that volatility has decreased, and I just don't get as many signals on the daily chart in terms of trying to run with trends. That has not been anywhere near as just as frequent as I would normally expect. Okay, very often it's a case of, in previous years, it's been a case of quite a lot of opportunities and having to basically choose the best ones. Now it's a case of taking them because they've just been very rare over these last few months. And whether that's in for the whole year or whether that is just a decrease in volatility before the spikes in volatilities we get from next week onwards with elections in France, the UK, and then into the US and elsewhere. Maybe that is, truthfully, I don't know. You have to play what you see in front of you. But that has been one of my notable reflections this year as I've been working through.
Well, one of the things I would say about volatility, when there's no volatility, nobody's making money. So it can only last for a certain length of time. And it's one of the things that even intraday trading, you can see that there's, when there's no volatility, there's going to be an explosive move one way or the other because everybody's just sitting there twiddling their thumbs. They have nothing to do. They're bored. They're waiting for. They're not getting any money. They're not getting whatever the Kung Fu grip thing was out of Trading Places. G.I. Joe and the Kung Fu grip. What was I going to say? They're not getting those things, and so volatility has to. So money is, if there's no volatility, money's probably gone someplace else for a while. Money's around the place. Yeah. So there probably is something else that. And then also what I find in the ES, because I can really see it now at the moment, I can start seeing the summer creeping into the action in the market, and it gets slower because people take so much time off. Bloody lazy traders, and and that makes a really big difference during your trading day, because you get these long, like 4-hour stretches of nothing happening, and you're getting these little 2-point moves or 3-point moves, and if you're particularly spread betting, they're not really tradable. Like 3 points is not really tradable spread betting because, in reality, by the time the spread better takes his bit off it, in reality, I kind of count it as 6 ticks to do a spread trade, like between the bad pricing, the spread itself, the difference between the market actually moving in my trade station and when I see it moving with a spread better, it's about 6 ticks. So if you only get 3-point moves, you're not trading that.
It's not what it was. Just to sort of answer your earlier point there about volatility's gone, nobody's making money, the money's gone elsewhere. You're absolutely right. Okay, I've chatted about this morning as well. Stuff is about effectively that I like to, where possible, swing in the longer term, look to strength, trend, and momentum, and that has not really been that volatility has not really been there in the FX in the way I would like. and it's pretty much because there are times of the year where you're better sort of focusing on FX over equities and indices, and at this moment, and I'd say since what was about October, end of October last year, we effectively just went into basically an equity bull market, and in particular that kind of market being dragged north by Nvidia, and I would also suggest Apple and Microsoft. And if you look at those charts, that is where the strength, trend, and momentum has been. It has been in the Nvidia chart, and that has dragged Nasdaq and S&P along with it. And so you're absolutely right. That kind of it's where is that energy flowing? All right, that energy is clearly has been flowing into equities and equity indices. Okay, and in particular, even particular ETFs for particular parts of the markets, etc. And the question is, how long will that remain? Do you know what I mean? How long will that remain? As Nvidia sort of dumped was it something like dumped $430 billion worth, in the kind of like the 3 days, that sort of little bit of a turnaround and what have you. And it's a case of that energy is going somewhere, and if it isn't in FX, it's because it's elsewhere. That's because that's where people are allocating their money and energy. And I kind of probably transpose money and energy in the same way and stuff, and think of them in the same way, etc. And decreasing volatility in FX, but an increase in opportunities and in equities and the indices that are associated with them. So sometimes I try to get that across to traders. There are sometimes those periods of the years when they're better. Sometimes it is abundantly clear, and sometimes it's a struggle to work out. Okay, it's I wish maybe there's people listening to this who would know better than me and can help others. I wish there was a simple rules of thumbs that I could say, namely that, all right, you know what, bang, April's always April, you should always trade equities and indices over FX, etc. But I've not really found that myself. It happens when it happens. A lot of it goes from what's going on in bond markets and geopolitical events, etc. But yeah, these are kind of reflections and learnings from myself, from these first 6 months of the year.
Well, I was going to think about that is that Nvidia, I'm not familiar with Nvidia charts at all. I don't think I've even looked at it actually once. But the thing is, what people would always have to realize is that every weak hand, because it's so famous and you hear about it on every, board that you go onto, every Facebook group that you're in, even your own professional friend traders are talking about Nvidia, and every weak hand in the market is going to be in there. Everybody who could be put under pressure in any which way, so a lot of people would put in, a lot of particularly newer traders will put in quite a lot of money with quite a tight stop, and all those stops, as price goes down, then it's going to cascade through those stops and just cause more sell. We were saying about that. One of the things with seeing if something is ranges, because I'm a range trader, effectively a range trader. And what you see an awful lot of the time is that you see the range is getting smaller as something goes up, because at the beginning there's excitement, so you have big ranges, and then the range starts getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and that often heralds either a period of low volatility or a reversal. And that's how I would work out that whole thing of it, because the ranges, and also with fib trading as well, they have specific areas which are traditionally would be profit-taking areas, and they tend to be quite small as well. We're in one now in the ES, and that's going to, and that's basically been a little bit of the problem at the moment, because in these areas the decision has to be made. People have to go one way or the other, and then you get these hedge funds and these groups that are in the market that are so huge they have to build up positions which will be multi-days of volume in something, and that means what they're just buying or selling, just get selling a little bit until they build up the positions, and then they create the move. So that would be my answer to that, basically, at the moment. And it's the one strength and one weakness of my own trading style. I find that these ranges are tiny. They're getting tiny now at the moment, and that makes it, a normal good sized range is at least 20 points wide. So you should be putting on a trade at the bottom, and 50% of that move should be 10 points, and you should be really happy with that now and getting them down to 5. So the whole range is like 5-6 points wide, and that's going on for 4 or 5 hours, and it's just not just not just not good
Yeah.
trading time. Like, really, you still make money, but it's not as much
You're
fun.
fine. You're working for it. Yeah.
You're working for it, and and it's not as much. Like, it's not as much fun, and then it's more stressful because you put on your trade, and instead of just sitting on your backside, because it still takes 20 minutes to travel 10 points or whatever, half an hour to travel 10 points. You're sitting there, it's over. It's
Yeah.
just gone. That's your trade, and
Yeah.
it's not as much fun. It's not as much fun, I don't think. Basically, unfortunately. The next thing I'd written down was just, which we've talked about several times, like, it's just how isolating and boring, and also as well what that trading is, and also what a privilege it is to sit in your backside at home all day and go up and do this magic thing where you press a few buttons and then money comes into your account. Which is quite a privilege to
If
do
only it
that,
was that.
and to have your own business and your own movable business and your own, do what you want when you want, how you want to do it effectively,
Yeah.
within reason.
Yeah, that is an exceptionally good point, namely that you see lots of people on social media bitching and moaning about trade, but ultimately it is an amazing privilege. All right, we live in a fascinating window in time, where you can work for yourself, running your own business on your own time schedule, in your own locations, okay, with no real evident boss, shall we say. It's a really unbelievable privilege to be able to do that, and I think sometimes people need to remember that and treat it as such, rather than sort of see it as the kind of the misery and the grind and that some people will see. You just open up social media and find people just bitching and moaning about it, but actually it's an unbelievable privilege. Yeah, and we all need to be reminded of that now and then, don't we?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I all remember the first time I ever felt that. I was living in a different apartment. I was up in one of these sort of higher, taller apartments, and I'm looking down at people at 9 o'clock in the morning or 8:30 in the morning, making their way to work in their suits, and I was not doing that, and that was
Yeah.
really quite a nice thing. This is a completely not related thing, but it's just something that came into my head during the week when I was looking at I was doing up a chart, and I was looking at the indicators that were available to me on the package,
Yeah.
and I was thinking, is the reason that these platforms put on so many different types of indicators. Like, I mean, there are so many types of indicators on there, and nobody's using them.
Yeah.
Is that sort of, are they trying to keep you engaged with the market? Like, is that what they're trying to do? Is it a sort of like, if we give you all these things, you will stay and trade longer, especially with like spread betting platforms? The more tools they give you, the more things they give you to explore. Are they just trying to keep you on that sort of holy grail search without,
Perhaps, I think there's probably an element of that. I think there's also a kind of a corporate nonsense that goes on.
Mhm.
Anyone who's worked in a corporate environment for a good few years will know there's an awful lot of nonsense that goes on, an awful lot of inefficiency, an awful lot of messing around, and you see either brokers or salespeople for trading platforms, and one man will go in and pitch to whether it be a broker or whether it be to a fund or whatever, and say, well, do you know what? We've got 200 indicators available to us on our trading platform. And then the next fella hears that and he comes in and says, well, no, actually, we've got 250. That makes our platform better. And then the fella after him says, no, actually, we've upped ours. We've got 300 indicators on our platform. That's better than, your first man. And it's just corporate nonsense. It's just, it's kind of corporate willy waving kind of going on, trying to say that we're, trying to define the fact that they think their platform is the best platform by the number of indicators they can offer to people, when in fact, actually, the vast majority of people would be better to maybe use one, maybe two indicators max, all right, and just get good at it. If you're going to use indicators, just get good at understanding that. The amount of esoteric, indicators that are out there. People share them with me and show me. I have absolutely no idea what it is, what it does, how it works. So I have no faith or belief in it. It might be fantastic, but I have no idea what it is. I don't, it doesn't really, I like to, less is more for me. I kind of like to have less on the charts if I can get away with it. But I think that there was, as I said, in terms of the indicators, the hundreds that you're offered now, that doesn't mean that it's any better, like to make you more trader. It's just, if anything, to come to your point, is a case of that you just get overwhelmed because there's just so many. You're like, well, hang on a minute, which one are the ones I should use, especially if you're at home on your own and you don't have any kind of guidance or mentorship or access to a social group of other traders who'll help you. It becomes a bit it becomes a bit challenging that way, I think.
Yeah, and what I see them as some of the platforms allow you to build your own indicators. I use the indicators built by other people.
Yeah.
It's the holy grail stuff, at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, you pick an indicator, learn how to use it, and learn how to read it. But anyway, that's just a different thing. Part of my next point was, well, you just mentioned there, which was I need to talk more to other professional traders because I find they're inspirational for finding how to do other things. There was one, I had a great conversation there during the year with one where I realized I was using a tool in a way that I could use the tool more efficiently and much more simply. And then went away and changed, and that changed my trading, So it's very good to talk to other professional traders to just get inspired by what they're doing, and to be able to exchange ideas, because you can exchange ideas with professional traders in a way that you can't exchange when you're trying to teach somebody. When you're talking to somebody who's not a professional trader, you're often being the mentor or the teacher, which is nice, which means that you're learning things and understanding things that you basically already know. So it might be clarifying an idea for you, but it's not a new idea. Where if you're talking to other professional traders, they actually have new ideas and they can actually teach you something or show you something, and and it's all trading is continuous development, really. Until you hit a certain point in fact, there will never be a point where you'd hit it. But trading is continual development. There's always, the best traders in the world are always still looking for a slightly better way to do it, slightly faster way to do it, slightly more efficient way to do whatever they're doing. And you have guys that are making multi-millions a year that do exactly the same thing. They go out and they want to do that. So one of the sort of things I want to do in the coming year, especially, is to try and have more quality conversations with other professional traders about what they're doing. And you also have to be very careful sometimes when you're talking to them, because some of them are just looking for attention, they just want to, and some of them are looking for power, so if you're talking to somebody, you want to have a conversation with them. You don't want this sort of power dynamic where they're basically going, "You stupid, me smart." That's what you see a lot of the time when you're talking to that happens. That happens relatively, sometimes you sit there and you find yourself almost defending what you're doing. Like, as I was defending it, I was talking the last day, somebody who said, "Oh, it was about the tight ranges," and I said, "I can't do this with spread betting." And he's going, "Well, are you saying you shouldn't be doing these trades or something?" I can't remember what it was, but it was spread betting was causing me the problem. And I was going, "But spread betting, I can't do it with spread betting. The spread's too big." And things like that where you just, it's a waste of time. But good quality conversation with the pro trader is a great use of your time. Great use of your time. Basically.
It just comes back to that, that recurring theme that we've talked about for all of this podcast. And if you think about it, it's actually, one of the reasons this podcast was created was basically, you and me and a few others sat in a pub in Dublin, just having a chat about our trading, all right, and just basically being able to have a bit of a discussion, a bit of a chat, be able to talk to people who love trading rather than just talking to the average man in the street, see his eyes glaze over when actually all he wants to know is what's the quickest way to make money quickly, but actually talking to other traders, right, is enormously important. It actually is beneficial for other traders and stuff. I think it's really genuinely quite helpful and stuff. And so, and I've often said, you want to build your own little social network of traders, right? Because we are social animals. who do really benefit from having a chat with other traders. Not all of them. Some of them are, as you've mentioned, some of them are there for their own purposes. Right? If you want to look great, or they want to look smart, or they want to act like the king of it and stuff. And in fact, actually, just want the decent other people who are striving to do the best they can and are always interested in getting better at what they do. And strangely enough, I find those kind of people, they do that in probably lots of other aspects of their life, not just trading. They just basically they embrace it, and they just want to improve and they want to get better at it. I know I was always the same with when I was playing sports and playing in sports teams. I just want to get better at hitting a free kick, kicking a ball, basically, hitting a pitch, pitching it in, or better, when it effectively just, fighting air was just any more efficient ways to shoot down the other guy. I'm all for it. All right. And it's the same with trading. What are the ways we could get better at this? I think there's that kind of natural inclination to want to work. It's something that captures you and you enjoy. Okay. I think that shouldn't be underestimated, and you want to be around other similar people like that, I think.
It's a technology. Well, I just think of it as a technology transfer. It's like when gunpowder came to the West, from China. It's a technology transfer. One person comes up with an idea and then it spreads, and that's the only way it can spread is by you communicating with other traders, and it spreads into your thing. And one of the things I think, which when they've listened to interviews from various entrepreneurs in different fields as well, not just in trading, is that one of the defining things is that. And I can see it with myself a lot, is that there's no shame in asking. There's no shame in, I don't know how to do this. How do you do this? And because once you bring in your ego, you're going to always have people, if you go and ask somebody, how do you do this? You're inevitably going to have fun made of you at some stage. You're going to be embarrassed by it. They're going to embarrass you. But the thing is that embarrassment will last 30 minutes. But then you're coming away with a piece of information that might change your life. And that's the real important thing at the end of the day. Yep. So it doesn't matter. Yep. They might have had their little bit of sport for a little while on that cost you, but they're the winner at the end.
No, absolutely. And it's funny, we talked about, like, I mentioned NVIDIA there, and my interest in video started a couple of years ago when I was in the bar with no name in Dublin, and having had a couple of sociable pints with Carl, our mutual friend Carl, and stuff, and he was talking about how they were looking at it at the Trinity College and stuff, and they were intrigued in it, and I was just like, all right, that sounds grand, I'll have a look at it. And it was trading at $70 at the time and stuff, and this is it's gone through its stock split in the last month or so, but it did very well after that and stuff. But that came from, actually, as I said, having a pint, having a bit of a chat with someone who's equally interested in stuff, and suddenly opportunities come for you, don't you? You just need to be open to them. You just need to listen, and you'll be amazed at how many opportunities come your way if you're just basically open and curious and happy to ask questions and happy not to have ego and be keen to learn. You'd be surprised how many opportunities will come your way in life. That's my own personal. That's my own personal philosophy.
The same thing happened with gun companies, because because I was in that community anyway, because I shot.
Yeah.
And then so I had a good understanding of what they were actually going through at the time, just from the sheer fact of being a part of that community. But there's no other way really to. I mean, you can go and you can read books, and you can go do what you want, but at some stage you have to go and find a real life trader and actually ask them questions. And I find that that's happening less. I used to get tracked down by people on the internet to ask questions. I remember at one point getting like 7 PMs a day from random people asking me for like trading help. And I don't find that happens anymore, because you have all this other new media. So this type of thing, podcasts, and you have TikToks and all that kind of stuff. And they really feel that they're going to get the same amount of information from TikToks that they're going to get from talking to an actually live human being who actually does the job.
Yeah.
And that's not true. That's not true. You won't.
I'd agree. So I think that's probably a good point for us to. I appreciate you've got a bit of a sore throat, and it kind of gives us a point to actually sort of draw towards a close and stuff. And as I said, this is the end of season 1, all right, of the TOGS Trading Podcast. As I said, we're going to take a break July and August. For various reasons and stuff. But I suppose we've really it has been quite an eye opener for us, hasn't it? In terms of we're traders, we're not new media guys and stuff. There's the presentations are maybe a bit scruffy. They could be a lot slicker. Maybe that's what will happen in season 2. That'll get sorted. But we really appreciate everybody who's joined us, everybody subscribed, everybody's messages, comments, etc. Please keep them coming. If there's things you'd like us to see more of in season 2, if there's topics you'd like us to cover, then by all means, all right, do that, because we'll basically we can build that into the season 2 platform, all right, or the rather schedule and stuff. But it's been rather an interesting 6 months doing the podcast, hasn't it, Ian?
Yeah, it has. It has. No, it's been enjoyable to do something different that's related to trading, that doesn't involve me buying something and selling something, or analyzing a chart or whatever else. Like it's which is nice. It's nice to see, and it's nice to sort of see how this whole media worldy thing actually works. And that's in itself eye opening, just to see how how things like YouTube and algorithms and TikTok and all this kind of stuff works. And there's the old adage from, I can't remember where it's from, but I think it's Louis Walsh or somebody, which is, give me $250,000, I'll give you a hit song. And I think sometimes with YouTube, it's almost the same way.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree with you there. I wouldn't disagree with it. And so if we do have any listeners who are real podcast experts, by all means, get in touch and stuff. If you've got ideas and thoughts, we'll happily learn them. This was always about sort of transferring the conversations that me and Ian would be having in Kyo's over a nice pint and stuff, putting the world to rights and what have you, and being able to sort of just move it into the space as to help other traders to make it, actually, to give you a little bit of insight into the reality of it, is that in fact it's not all flashy new media, podcasters. Okay, it's actually it's about doing the work, all right, and about cutting out mistakes, and about leveraging your strengths, mitigating your weaknesses, and a constant dedication to wanting to get better at your craft and such. Any final points you'd like to add, Ian? Anything you'd
not that I can think of, no, it's not, except to enjoy the summer. That's about the only thing, because it'll be slow, painfully slow, probably, in trading a little bit during the summertime, unless there's some like big news event, which I hope there isn't.
We'll see,
and go from there, basically.
Any nice plans for the summer?
Usual things. We're going to Germany for a couple of weeks, and we're going to go to the west of Ireland for a while. So I have 10 weeks. My son will be home for 10 weeks in the summertime. So that's basically what the summer is for us. So yeah, just holidays here and there. And then the rest of the time, just working away. I mean, an awful lot of my life is just childcare at the moment. And it's going to be just childcare, because I have to drop them over at a certain time. I have to pick them up at a certain time. And, it doesn't leave a lot of time. And then by the time you do work, it doesn't leave a lot of time for anything else. So I have 3 or 4 weeks. I think probably about 4 weeks I'm taking off during the summer, like properly.
Nice one. Well,
that'll be it.
As I've discussed that, I'm around and about and away, flitting away here and there, but I'm going to be back in Ireland, I think, the second week of August. So I'm going to go up to the farm, checking the harvesting, but also be in Dublin, and hopefully we'll have hopefully have a pint. Maybe we'll do a like a podcast summertime special, fresh from the pub, Ian and Paul and all our friends, those three. Those three of them who'd have a turn up for a podcast special from one of the back rooms of Kyo's or somewhere like that. But anyway, listen, thank you everybody for listening. All right, thank you everybody for joining us and subscribing. As I said, we really appreciate it. Please, share the pod as much as you like. We love it. And we both hope you have a fantastic summer, and we'll be back in September. And until that time, trade well, everybody. All right, take care of yourselves.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.